This training video is designed to show you how to use the Wyse Management Suite to automatically configure Wyse Thin OS clients. The ability to simply take Wyse Thin OS thin clients out of the box, connect it to your network, and have zero configuration on the endpoint is one of the great advantages of using a Dell Wyse Thin OS client. In this training, you will see screen captures from an actual installation and configuration of thin clients in my lab. You may need to run the video in full screen mode to see the installation clearly. In the past, the recommended method for doing this automatic configuration of Wyse Thin OS clients was by using text-based INI files on a central FTP or HTTP server. Although this method is extremely effective, configuration can become complicated if devices require unique settings, and the INI file configuration may be seen as complex, particularly for someone new to this type of management. Dell has now introduced the Wyse Management Suite. This next generation of thin client management software allows organizations to effectively deploy, group, and manage devices. This is all done with the web-based GUI, and there is no need to manually configure INI files. The Wyse Management Suite is available in both standard and professional versions. One of the advantages of the professional version is the ability to have management solution hosted in the cloud. There are other features only available in the professional version for both cloud and on-prem. For the purpose of this training, I'm going to focus on the Wyse Management Suite Standard. This version supports up to 10,000 clients, is available only as an on-premise solution, and is a free solution for management of Wyse Thin OS clients. The Wyse Management Suite supports the management of Dell Wyse clients with Windows Embedded, Linux, and Wyse Thin OS. But for the purpose of this training, I'm going to be showing the configuration of a Wyse Thin OS client. Now let's review the steps for automatic configuration of the Wyse Thin OS client with the Wyse Management Suite Standard. I'm going to demonstrate all of these steps in this video today. So you may want to follow along and pause the video as necessary if you are using this training as a tool for configuring your own environment. Step 1, we will install the Wyse Management Suite. It is recommended using a new install of Windows 2012 R2 or Windows Server 2016 in a virtual machine. Creating a snapshot of the virtual machine before the install would also be recommended, so you can roll back if you want to start the installation again. Step 2 will be to log into the Wyse Management Suite console and modify the default policy group and create a new policy group with settings to configure the thin client. Step 3 is optional, but I recommend to test by manually configuring the Wyse client to communicate with the management server before making any network changes. And step 4 is to configure custom DHCP option tags or DNS entries. In this training, you will see how to do both, but you would only want to use one method for each setting. For step 1, installing the Wyse Management Suite, the server and hardware requirements are listed here on the screen. Now let's begin the installation. You can see in this case I am using a Windows 2016 standard server. The server is joined to the domain, and I am logged in as a domain administrator. During the install, you will need to set a password for the Wyse Management Suite database account. You also need to set up administrator credentials. Make sure you remember the email address you use as the administrator and the password you set, as this will be needed to log into the console. You will also need to create and specify a directory to use for the local software repository. During normal circumstances, the entire local installation should take about 5 minutes. Once the installation has completed successfully, click on the Launch button. Then click on Get Started. For this training, we are going to select the license type of Standard. The next two items are setting up email alerts and importing a certificate. To keep this demo as simple as possible, I am choosing to skip these two optional steps. Now you can sign into the console. Now let's move on to step 2 and configure the group policies. For this demo, I will go to Apps and Data, and under File Repository, add 3 JPEG files to use as desktop wallpapers for the devices. Here you can see the default wallpaper. I'm going to add another one for a VMware background. And then I will add a third one with some orange circles. By using custom wallpaper, it makes it very visible when the policy is applied. Now let's go to the default policy group and click on Edit. I like to change the group token for the default policy group from the default to default group. Now we'll select Edit Policies, Thin OS. Under Visual Experience, change the desktop to Classic. This is a personal preference. Select a wallpaper. We're going to use the default JPG and change the wallpaper to Stretch. For security, let's change the privilege to Known, which prevents any unwanted local changes, and we'll set up a local admin account. Under Remote Connections, we're going to make sure the broker is set to None. Finally, under Advanced, we're going to select No Global INI File. This is just to ensure that the settings are only coming from the Wyse Management Suite, not from a legacy FTP or HTTP server that hosts an INI file. Here you can review the settings for the default policy group, which include Classic Desktop, Privilege None, Local Username and Password, Setting Broker to None, and Setting No Global INI File. Now I will create a new policy group. This group and all other groups will be under the default policy group and thus inherit all the settings from the default policy. For this group, I will set the token to something easy to remember, Horizon View. Enable it and click on Save. Now we will edit the newly created Horizon View policy group. For the Thin OS policy, we will change the visual experience to the VMware JPEG wallpaper. The broker server will select to VMware and specify my Horizon 7 connection server. Then we'll click on Save and Publish. Before we move to the next step, I'll go ahead and show you the 3 JPEG files which I loaded to the software repository. You can actually see a default JPEG, some orange circles, and a VM background screen. Using unique wallpapers makes it very visual to just verify if a policy has been applied correctly. For step 3, I'm going to test the Wyse Management Suite and the policy groups by entering the Wyse Management Suite information directly on the Wyse Thin OS client. To best demonstrate this, I have split my screen capture to show my Wyse Thin OS client on the left and the Wyse Management Suite console on the right. After opening the console, you can see the default policy group, which over here it's DEFA-default group. On the Thin client, we're going to go to System Setup, Central Configuration. In the WDA tab, select CCM and enable Cloud Client Manager. Cloud Client Manager was a product name for Wyse Management Suite when there was only a cloud-hosted version. Therefore, any references to Cloud Client Manager in the ThinOS GUI can be used interchangeably with the Wyse Management Suite. As you can see, I'm also entering my CCM server and my MQTT server. The default is to point to the cloud-hosted version. It's recommended to use the default ports, which is 443 for the CCM server and 1883 for the MQTT server. In testing in my lab, I was able to succeed even without using the ports, but it's best practice to use them. Since we're not using CA certificates, let's go ahead and clear that, and then click on Validate Key. Once I click on Validate Key, the device will reboot, and if I look in my Wyse Management Suite console, I can actually see now that I have one device that's checked in and listed as manageable. The group is set to the default policy group, and you can see the wallpaper that we specified is there. We can also check the device. Remember, we set this privilege to none, so I can't make any changes, and I did specify a local admin account if I wanted to make changes there locally. Let's go ahead and select the device. Under More Actions, we're going to select Change Group, and now we're going to change it into that VMware Horizon View group and go ahead and save that. Now the device recognizes the changes, communicates with the Wyse Management Suite server, and begins to reboot so that it can apply the new changes. Keeping in mind, it will apply all the policy settings in a default policy group plus the ones that it inherits from the Horizon View group. So the default policy, for example, specified to the privilege none, and in the VMware group specified my view connection server, and I also set the background. So now I can go ahead and log in just to verify that that's working, and now you can see I have several desktops available. I'll just select one. The device is still locked down, can't make changes here. I'll select a desktop, and you can see that I can log in here. Go ahead and log off. I can show you some other management features here. I can go ahead and do things like restart. You can see how the real-time interaction with the device. As I select a device and did a restart, now the device begins to restart. So again, this is just testing. I manually entered the settings for the Wyse Management Suite server on the device. So for the next part of the demo, I'm going to go ahead and select the device, and I'm going to choose the option to wipe it, which will clear out any settings the device has. So I'm going to do a remote wipe of my device, which will essentially reset the device to its factory defaults. Now you can see in my Wyse Management Suite there are no devices listed as managed, and the device, when it boots up, will not have any information about the Wyse Management Suite. If we go ahead and look now on the device under Central Configuration, you can see there are no settings here. Now let's move on to step 4A, and we're going to create and configure the custom DHCP option tags for the Wyse Management Server. Here you can see this is on the device the settings that we need to specify. We're going to use option tags. So for the group registration key, we're going to use custom option tag 199. For the server, option tag 165, MQTT server 166, and the CA validation status with option tag 167. Here you can actually see in DNS what I need to do is I go into set predefined options, and then I click on add, and I'll go ahead and add them in order. So for my Wyse Management Suite server, I'm going to do code 165. All of these custom options are type string. This is just the default value. So I'll go ahead and put that in, which is my full DNS name of my Wyse Management Suite server, including the port. Again, that's a recommended best practice. So now I'm going to go and move on and add the next one. So for my MQTT server, the code is 166. Again, type string. You can see all of these listed down at the bottom of the screen as well, the 4 that we're going to need for this part of the test. Pay special attention to the format so you can see where I've got the DNS name, port. This is going to be for the CA validation status, option tag 167, which again, we're not using that for this simple demo, so the value is going to be simply false. And the last one, DHCP custom option tag 199, type string, and this is my group key. Now remember, for the demo, I'm putting them in the default group. There's no reason you couldn't put it directly into any other group that you found beneficial. So in this case, if we knew we wanted to go to that VMware Horizon View group, I could put the token in specifically for that group. But again, I'm going to go ahead and use the default group in this case. And now that we've defined them, we actually need to enable them. Now that's one step. Sometimes I see people create the DHCP option tags, but they're not enabled. Remember, you can enable these custom option tags per scope or per server. I'm setting them per the scope in my lab. One of the advantages of setting them per scope is you could actually perhaps have different group keys unique to each custom scope. So if you want them to show up and have different policy groups apply to devices based on their subnet scope, you could do that easily just by setting a different, that'd be option tag 199. So again, here's the screen with the Wyse Management Suite console on the right. Let's go ahead and log in. And now again, there's no devices there, and you can see here there is no management server specified on the device. And just to make sure that anything's cleared out, we're going to go ahead and restart it to factory defaults one more time locally on the device, really to simulate what you might see if you were taking a device out of its box and unpackaging it and hooking it to your network for the very first time. So you can see, obviously, when the DHCP server responds to the device, it's going to provide its IP address and also provide the 4 bits of information that it needs, including the CCM server, the MQTT server, the policy group, and the validation status. And you can see the device here now has those settings applied. They go into the default policy group. Let's go ahead and change it to the Horizon View group. Go ahead and save that. And again, you'll see the group token has changed for the device, so it will restart. You can also see it's reflected on the right in the management suite, the group that the device is in. Now let's go ahead and once the device boots up, I want to show you what I have set here for the time zone and the time server. You can actually see, because I haven't specified it, if I go under my system preferences, you can see the date and time, and the time zone is unspecified, and the time server is actually not a valid time server. So if I want to set those values through the Wyse Management Suite, I may decide that it's best to go ahead and go to the Horizon View group and specify a time server. So just go back to the Horizon View group, edit the policy, select Thin OS, and then under Other, you can actually see the time server settings. I'm going to set it to time.nist.gov. And then save and publish. Now, I may also want to set a time zone, but I'm going to actually create a group under Horizon View for each specific time zone. So I'm going to call this in Horizon View EST and give that a description. And the purpose of this is so that this will be underneath the Horizon View, so anyone in this setting will get the things from Horizon View. We got to enable the group token, and we're going to give it a group token that makes sense, Horizon View EST. And as I was saying, they'll get the Horizon and the time server. But now we go into this specific policy, Horizon View EST, and edit the policy for Thin OS. And remember, we go to Other for the time settings. It's inherited time.nist.gov, but the time zone for this group, we're going to go find GMT -5 Eastern Time Zone and save and publish. So now all you would really need to do is go to the device. Here you can see the summary. That's all that's set there. But we'll go to the device, and under more actions, we're going to change the group. Expand out under Horizon View, and we'll find Horizon View EST, and go ahead and save. And that will change that device to that new policy group. You can see my Wyse Thin OS Thin client on the left screen is about to reboot, so we can get these new changes. So let's go ahead and log in with admin mode just to verify the changes have been applied correctly. Again, the admin credentials were set in the default policy. And now you can see the time zone is Eastern and the time server is time.nist.gov. So I want to show you one more quick demo. If we take this group, remember I said that applying desktop wallpapers was a very visual way to show changes. I want to show you this change in real time without any reboots required. So I'll just configure the visual experience. Again, here now we've inherited the VMware.jpg, but we're going to select the orange circles, and we're going to go ahead and save and publish. And this is not a change that requires any reboot on the device, and you can see it just automatically pops up on my Thin OS client. And you can see the group here on the right of the device is Horizon View EST. So now you see the device it automatically configured itself. I didn't have to make any changes local on the device. Everything it needed to find the management suite server was on the option tags. So we might want to do this with DNS entries. Again, to do this, we're going to need to get the same 4 bits of information to the device. We need to get the default group. So what we'll do is we'll use 2 SRV records. We'll create those for the Wyse Management Suite server and the MQQT server, and then we're going to use DNS text records for the group key and the CA validation status. So here's screenshots of my SRV record. Again, pay special attention to the format. You can see the full DNS name. The ports are specified. And then for my text records, you can see here I've got that default group as well as the CA validation status set to default. So go ahead and bring up one last time. These are the 4 steps that we did. Hopefully you found this demonstration useful and got you all the information you need. Thanks for viewing, and have a good time deploying many Wyse Thin clients.